Hello there, my name is Linda Jo Martin and I am known on Booktube as Book Lady. Today I am doing a tag video. It is the Buried Treasure tag that was written by Janelle and her channel is called Too Fond of Books. I'll put her link in the description of the video on YouTube. So the first prompt that she gives us is a book that has been on your shelf a long time but you have never talked about on your channel. And I chose this book. It is Back from the Abyss, the Autobiography of a Low-Bottom Alky. This was sent to me by a publishing company, and it was a really good memoir. The sad thing is he's no longer with us, but if you can get hold of this book, it is a very interesting memoir. I wish it was better known. And the second prompt is a book with a cover so awful it is actually awesome. Well, I had a hard time finding something that was so awful it was awesome, but this one is really awful in my opinion. It is called Pigs in the Parlor, The Practical Guide to Deliverance by Frank and Ida Mae Hammond. It's about demon possession and deliverance therefrom, and I think the cover is just truly horrible. It's supposed to be an eye with little pigs in it, and I guess the pigs symbolize the demons that you don't see when you're talking to somebody who is demon possessed, but this is just a horrible, horrible cover. I don't know, maybe you like it. I don't. I don't like it. Okay. A book you love that you wish everyone would read. Well, there's not very many books that I absolutely love, but this is one of them. The Little Prince. And this is not the official copy. If you go out and buy a copy, please get the official one. Don't do what I did and buy this one because it's a bootleg copy and it has black and white pictures and it's kind of annoying in that way. So buy the official one if you can get it. It's like a little bit more expensive than what I paid, but well worth it. Anyhow, The Little Prince. I think this is a wonderful book, and every now and then I find somebody who hasn't read this book yet, and I think that's so strange because it's an awesome book and it isn't very long and it's got lots of pictures. So, I mean, what's not to love? Get to hear about The Little Prince, and he's just amazing. This is a wonderful book. I mean, I've been loving this since I was a teenager. So, great book. And then the next one, okay, I had trouble deciding for this next prompt. It is a well-known author's underappreciated work. First of all, I thought of 2nd John in the Bible because people always talk about the Gospel of John and 1st John. They don't talk about 2nd and 3rd John, which are very short books, but I thought they were worth reading. I was going to pick out Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood, which is kind of not her best known work, but it's still pretty well known, so I decided against that too, and I looked through all the books that I had listed at Goodreads, and I came up with this one, which is written by a guy named Meindert DeJong, who was a Dutch-born American writer of children's books. He lived from 1906 to 1991, and he had several books on the Newbery list, which I used to have a goal to read all the books on the Newbery list. And so I read some of his books. I didn't read the one that actually won the Newbery Medal, which is The Wheel on the School, but my daughter read it and she liked it. But the first one of his books that I read to my children was called Along Came a Dog. And I just kind of fell in love with that book. I really like this book, Along Came a Dog. So if you want to read a juvenile book about dogs, this is a good one. And it was a Newbery Medal honor book, I think in 1959. So the next prompt is the oldest edition of a book on your shelves. And if you follow my channel, you know that I don't have all my books with me, and the oldest books are not with me. So I couldn't find anything really old around here, but then finally I came up with this. The Great Granny crochet book. That kind of makes you think old, right? Because it's granny crochet. So it was published in 1979, I think, and so it's kind of old, but not very really. Anyhow, moving on. An author on your shelves that you have never heard anyone else talk about, and that would be Mary Callahan. I think this is the only book she wrote. I'm not really sure. It's Memoirs of a Baby Stealer, Lessons I Have Learned as a Foster Mother. And it's got a little picture of her on the back. And I'm very much looking forward to talking about this more one of these days. Prompt number 7, a book you love from your shelves that you have not read in over 5 years. Well, somebody recently gave me a copy of this amazing book, which is a local book, local regional memoir. It's called In the Land of the Grasshopper's Song, and I do love this book because it's local. It's about 2 girls that came to the Klamath River Valley back in 1908. Interesting book, very interesting, and it's sold on Amazon. So the next prompt is a book you remember reading in your childhood, and I don't have a copy here. It's called A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My mother used to read that to me when I was sick in bed. And then the last one, well, prompt number 9 is a book you love from a genre you don't tend to read often. And so I chose this one, Back to Basics. It's a homesteading how-to guide, pretty comprehensive. Anything you need to know about living off the land, it's probably in this book. So I don't read this genre very often, and I have never read this cover to cover, but it's got a lot of interesting things in it. And so the last one, prompt number 10, is tag a booktuber who has buried treasure in their videos. And I will tag Erion and Prometheus at Book Zealots. So I would very much like to know what they would say about the prompts in this tag.